The Sphinx was always smiling as if he knew some secret jape. Hello lovers of Westeros, Ashley of Noth here to give you just what you've been wanting, another hidden identity video in A Song of Ice and Fire. Rest assured, this one is probably the most concrete of any secret identity theory in the series, in my opinion, so it doesn't involve as much creative interpretation and needlework to put it all together. I'm talking about the theory that Alleras the acolyte is actually Sarella Sand, a sand snake and bastard daughter of Oberyn Martell. This is a book-based theory, as Sarella was cut from the show, so if you are reading the books for the first time and haven't gotten to A Feast for Crows, spoiler warning. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get after it. First, let's get into Sarella's background for those who need a refresher. Sarella is Oberyn Martell's fourth eldest daughter, and her mother is a Summer Islander who's the captain of the Feathered Kiss. She's 19 years old. Sarella loves to learn and is said to love Old Town. Her whereabouts are currently unknown, though Prince Dorian says she's, quote, outside Dorne. Now, let's look at Alleras' background. Alleras, also known as the Sphinx, is an acolyte at the Citadel in Old Town who's been tasked with looking after Samwell Tarly. Alleras has a Dornishman for a father and a mother who's a trader from the Summer Isles. He has skin the color of light brown ale, curly jet black hair, a widow's peak, and big black eyes. Alleras is also noted to have a Dornish accent, which implies that he grew up in Dorne. Alleras is a remarkable archer using a golden heart longbow. He's also extremely intelligent, having forged 3 links of his maester's chain in a year. A character named Pate notes that the Sphinx was always smiling as if he knew some secret jape. So what in the world makes me think Sarella a girl is Alleras a guy? Clearly, Alleras is not a guy per this theory, but we'll get to that in a second. The most obvious clue that Sarella and Alleras are the same person is their names. Alleras is Sarella spelled backwards. And as you've heard a million times, George R.R. Martin has said he can't write a character's story if he hasn't named the character. An exact quote from George, the interview will be linked in the description, is the following. I can't write about Fred unless I know his name is Fred. Knowing that he's Fred influences the whole way I write about him. The point I'm trying to show is that name choice is very deliberate in A Song of Ice and Fire. So, if one name spells another backwards, George did that on purpose and we should take notice. Now, let's get back to Alleras not being a guy. This means that Sarella is posing as a boy while studying at the Citadel to become a maester. There's precedent for this, a woman posing as a man to join an organization that doesn't permit female members. Remember brave Dany Flint? She posed as a boy and joined the Night's Watch. Also, Arya posed as a boy so she could covertly leave King's Landing with a group of Night's Watch recruits. We know George recycles plots through various generations in A Song of Ice and Fire, so Sarella posing as Alleras fits in that regard. Let's transition from textual precedent to physical evidence that Alleras is actually a girl. He's noted to have soft smiles, and according to Pate, the Sphinx looks slight, but has strength in his slim arms. Pate also notes that Alleras has slim shoulders when watching the Sphinx sling his bow over one of them. Then, when Alleras meets Samwell after intercepting Sam at the Seneschal's court, Sam makes some interesting observations of the Sphinx. Sam describes Alleras as slim, slight, and comely, and later, after spilling his guts about the events at the Wall and Beyond, rumors of dragons, Maester Aemon's deathbed ramblings, and his insistence that Daenerys was the princess that was promised, Sam observes this. Alleras listened intently. He blinked from time to time, but he never laughed and never interrupted. When Sam was done, he touched him lightly on the forearm with a slim brown hand. A few things worth noting here. Sam says Alleras' hand is slim and that Alleras' touch was light. Let's take stock real quick. Alleras is reportedly said to have slight stature, slim arms, slim shoulders, slim hands, soft smiles, and a soft touch. This is because people are describing a woman's body, not a man's. Alleras is a woman. The irony is that people around her see this, but nobody is smart enough to put two and two together because surely no woman would have the gall to attempt to become a maester. I think that's exactly why Alleras smiles as though he knows a secret jape. She knows that she's fooling everyone right under their noses, and they are none the wiser. Now, you may be thinking it's one thing for Alleras to fool her classmates, but surely she couldn't hoodwink the maesters. However, I dispute that and say it could be done, and possibly with some ease. Novices and acolytes, of which Alleras is the latter, are educated together via open lectures from the archmaesters. The only time a student goes directly before an archmaester is when they demonstrate their knowledge to try and earn a link of their chain. And depending on the subject, that may not involve getting too close to the archmaester or having to touch them. So, as long as Alleras doesn't sit too close to the front of the class, the archmaesters probably wouldn't notice or pay her any attention. And when she goes to earn her links, they might notice her physical attributes in terms of these slim shoulders and slim arms. But I believe that their egos would kind of prevent them from even conceiving that there is a woman standing there because they probably think that women don't have the cunning, the smarts, or the bravery to try to attempt to infiltrate their order. So I really don't think that even if they did notice her slight build, they would conceive that there is a woman there. Another thing which indicates Alleras could be, and in my opinion is, a girl, is her habit of placing her hand on someone's forearm to calm them down. That is an overtly feminine gesture, and Alleras has done it twice that we know of. Once to the novice Molander to calm him down while another novice, Leo Tyrell, tries to provoke him, and a second time to Samwell as he divulged all that intel at the Seneschal's court. Nowadays, a hand to the forearm could be a fairly unisex gesture, but in the world of Ice and Fire, I'm thinking that's a uniformly female thing. As we've now established how it is that Alleras is a female, let's explore how it is that Alleras could be Sarella. Sarella is half Dornish, half Summer Islander, her father being Oberyn Martell and her mother a trader captain from the Summer Isles. Interestingly, Alleras is also half Dornish, half Summer Islander. Alleras' mother is a trader from the Summer Isles, and while it is known that Alleras' father is Dornish, he claims not to be a lord's son, which would be consistent with Alleras being Sarella because Sarella is Oberyn's daughter and Oberyn isn't a lord, he's a prince. Also, the descriptions of Alleras and Sarella's mothers are dead-on identical in that their occupations are the same. Both are traders, Trader, not Traitor, from the Summer Isles, and their ethnicity, obviously, both being from the Summer Isles, is the same. Moving along to physical descriptions, let's take a look at how Alleras looks and how Oberyn looks and see what, if anything, we can find. Interestingly, Alleras and Oberyn have the same eyes. Oberyn's are described as, quote, large eyes as black and shiny as pools of coal oil. Alleras' are described as, quote, big black eyes, and by another character as eyes of onyx, and as we know, onyx is just another shade of black. So again, Oberyn and Alleras have the same eyes. Alleras also has a widow's peak, which Oberyn definitely has and has passed on to at least one of the other sand snakes that we know of, that being Nymeria. So it's quite possible for Sarella, as Alleras, to have that feature. As I've stated already, Alleras displays incredible prowess with a Golden Heart longbow. This would be consistent with Alleras being Sarella, and therefore being a sand snake, because according to her cousin Arianne, Prince Oberyn had armed each of his daughters so they need never be defenseless. And it's true. Obara uses a spear, Nymeria uses daggers, Tyene uses poison, Sarella Alleras uses a bow, Elia uses a lance, and the other 3 sand snakes are too young to wield weapons. There's also the matter of Oberyn being dead and therefore unable to teach them. So, Alleras Sarella fits into that mold nicely. Speaking of Alleras' bow, we are given a description of the bow itself and the arrows that go with it. As it happens, the arrows are golden wood fletched with scarlet feathers. Gold and scarlet are House Martell's colors. How interesting. A few other suggestive elements in Alleras' story. In the A Feast for Crows prologue, Alleras and his group of friends from the Citadel are out at an inn to celebrate Alleras forging his copper link. Alleras treats them all, 4 in total, not including himself, 2 drinks, and one of the crew, Pate, notes the following. Alleras sipped his wine. The rest of them were quaffing tankards of the fearsomely strong cider that the Quillen tankard was renowned for, but he preferred the strange, sweet wines of his mother's country. Even in Old Town, such wines did not come cheap. Now, how is it that Alleras, a student, is able to afford some of the most expensive wine in Old Town on top of paying a tab for 4 other people? And this wasn't just a one-off either. We know Alleras has bought this wine before because Pate says it's Alleras' preference. So that means on at least one other occasion, Pate has noticed Alleras drinking this. It makes no sense for some random acolyte to be able to afford this. However, it does make perfect sense for the daughter of a Dornish prince, who spares no expense when it comes to his kids, to be able to afford it. Put simply, Oberyn gave Sarella money before she went to the Citadel to pose as Alleras, and probably lots of it. So that accounts for how Alleras can afford this very expensive, exquisite foreign wine. Curiously, Alleras has knowledge of House Targaryen that her classmates don't know or seem fuzzy about, and she shares these details prior to the first report of the glass candle burning, so it's not as though she used it as an aid to gain this knowledge. Then I'm left wondering, how does she know this stuff? How does it make sense for her to know it? Well, it makes sense if Alleras was actually Sarella Sand, whose aunt Elia married into House Targaryen, whose father and uncle have schemed extensively to restore House Targaryen to power. You get where I'm going with this. Sarella disguising herself as a boy and studying at the Citadel is foreshadowed by some things we're told of her character. Her cousin Arianne Martell reflects that Sarella was forever pushing in where she didn't belong, and later says that while on vacation to an abandoned holdfast, Sarella turned over rocks, brushed sand off the mosaics, and wanted to know everything there was to know about the people who had lived there. According to her sister Nymeria, Sarella loved Old Town. Where else better for Sarella to be than the Citadel? It's a place that she doesn't belong, where she can learn as much as she wants about anything she wants in a city she loves. And her father, Prince Oberyn, would back her presence there 100%. Arianne recalls Prince Oberyn telling his daughters, "If you would wed, wed. If not, take your pleasure where you would find it. There is little enough of it in this world. Choose well, though. If you saddle yourself with a fool or a brute, don't look to me to rid you of him. I gave you the tools to do that for yourself." Sidebar, I love this quote, and I love the type of father Oberyn was. But back to Sarella, though. It's clear that he'd support her wanting to become a maester because that's what she wanted for herself. It wouldn't surprise me if Oberyn was the one to cut Sarella's hair short before she left for the Citadel. That's how down he was and supportive of his daughter's goals. The only part of this theory that gives me pause, and it's very minuscule, but I thought I'd mention it nonetheless, is that Alleras Sand, for no discernible reason, wants to burn Old Town as vengeance for Oberyn's death. That's an odd thing to want to do if she knew her sister was there, which leads me to conclude it's not that Sarella isn't there, it's that Alleras doesn't know Sarella is in Old Town. And if you think about it, why would she? There's a reason Prince Doran and Prince Oberyn don't tell the Sand Snake shit. But for Sarella, you can't trust him. That's why, in A Feast for Crows, when they were stirring shit up, Prince Doran locked their asses away in a tower. You cannot trust them. Now, just for fun, I'd like to speculate as to what Sarella's role will be in the story going forward. First and foremost, Sarella, as Alleras, has been tasked with looking after Samwell by Archmaester Marwyn, so we can expect to see her take Sam under her wing like Jon Snow did at the Wall. I'd also bet money that when Sam leaves the Citadel to go to Winterfell or the Wall, Sarella will go with him. Aside from the opportunity to learn things in the North or at the Wall that she couldn't learn at the Citadel due to their bias, I think Sarella will feel compelled to help with the next War for the Dawn. Now, this is a bit of reverse engineering, but I do think in one way or another, we'll see Dany lose a dragon to the others and see it raised as some undead being. What's this got to do with Sarella? Well, when we first meet her as Alleras, the first thing we learn about her is that she's an extremely skilled archer, like crazy good. Alleras and her novice buddy Melander play this game where Melander does a routine like he's throwing a discus, a hop spin throw maneuver, except instead of throwing a discus, he throws apples and Alleras shoots them down, often coring the apple unless she chooses not to. Here's what it looks like. Dragging his club foot, Melander took a short hop, whirled, and whipped the apple sidearm into the mists that hung above the honey wine. Far and fast the apple flew, but not as fast as the arrow that whistled after it, a yard-long shaft of golden wood fletched with scarlet feathers. Pate did not see the arrow catch the apple, but he heard it. A soft chunk echoed back across the river, followed by a splash. Melander whistled. "You cored it. Sweet." So we can see that Alleras, Sarella, is deadly accurate. It can hit moving targets from a distance. See where I'm going with this? What could be moving through the air that needs to be killed and can only be brought down by precise placement of an arrow to its eye? An undead dragon, that's what. I think it's definitely possible that Sarella will kill a dragon the others raise. How likely is it? I really couldn't say. It's entirely possible that George might have Drogon do it, or just go a totally different direction. However, I wanted to throw the possibility of having Sarella kill the dragon out there, because I think it's very deliberate on George R.R. Martin's part to include this game in the story and choose that as the way to display Sarella's prowess as an archer. I just feel like that has to mean something. It could be a red herring, but I seriously doubt it. It also wouldn't surprise me if Sarella shot and killed a White Walker or two, which would be quite useful as we know because the Walker wouldn't be the only thing to die. The Whites it has command over would die also. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better situation. An archer with extreme accuracy who uses a Golden Heart longbow? Let me tell you, Golden Heart bows are some of the best bows in A Song of Ice and Fire, second only to Dragonbone bows. Made from the Golden Heart tree, which is found only in the Summer Isles, a Golden Heart bow can send an arrow 400 yards and can shoot a yard-long shaft hard enough to pierce through mail and boiled leather and even good steel plate. Could you imagine what Sarella could do with arrows that had heads of dragon glass? From 4 football fields away, she could hit the White Walkers and they needn't even see her. Now, if her ass isn't up at the Wall or Winterfell during the Second War for the Dawn, I have to admit I'd be a little bit disappointed, just saying. And for the skeptical out there who think Sarella's skill is derived from using a superior bow, that's false. Not many people can use them. It takes an incredible amount of strength to use a golden heart bow, and the fact that Sarella can, and with such ease, means she's the real deal. In addition to making use of her prowess as an archer, I think we'll see George have Sarella use her intellect to do something big. Remember, Sarella is the first woman that we know of to ever study at the Citadel, so failing to have her use the skills she learns there to affect change in the story, like, say, maybe to cure grayscale, would be a huge disservice to the story. I think a big part of Sarella's purpose is to show people in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire that women can learn just the same as, if not better than men. And there's no better way to prove that point than to have Sarella prove it by doing something monumental. Just to cover all my bases, I don't think Sarella is at the Citadel as part of Doran or Oberyn's plans. While there are maesters suspected of informing on the houses they serve to their own personal houses, and spying on or hurting an enemy that way would be fitting of Doran Martell's brilliant subterfuge, I don't think that's what's going on here. I don't think Oberyn would allow his daughter's lifelong passion to be corrupted with political schemes. That's going to do it for this video. If I had to make a final decision on whether or not Alleras is Sarella, I can't confirm it 100% obviously because it has not been confirmed in the books, but as I said in the very beginning of this video, I think this is probably the most solid hidden identity character within the story, so I'm pretty confident that Sarella is actually Alleras, or Alleras is Sarella. You get the deal. But it doesn't matter what I think, I am more interested in knowing what you guys think. So as always, please share your thoughts on the theory and like and subscribe for more content. I really hope you enjoyed my video. I'm Ashley of Noth. Thank you for watching.